Peace and blessings, family, and welcome to Labors of Love podcast. We are here to inspire, uplift, and enlighten. Each episode, we will be hearing from Black midwives, doulas, and other traditional childbirth supporters who have dedicated their lives to being of service to Black mothers and families in all aspects of the motherhood journey. Thank you for joining us for another edition of Labors of Love podcast. My name is Hafeeza Ture. I am your host, and I am grateful that you are here with us today for this valuable conversation. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Kendra Branch Payne. She is a doula and mother, and I have the pleasure of knowing her for quite a while now. So I'm grateful to be able to have this conversation on this platform. Kendra was born and raised in New Haven, Connecticut, as was I. She has two sons who are in college, and for the past 16 years, she has been working as a 911 operator with the city of New Haven. She is currently furthering her studies into herbalism and yoga and is planning to become a yoga instructor. Kendra is passionate about educating women in her community on self advocacy, natural healing, healthy eating, and self care to prepare themselves for labor, birth, and beyond. Uh, Kendra attended the Dada Zuri second cohort for her doula studies, which is a 14-month program with Earth's Natural Touch, Birth Care and Beyond. So I am so grateful to be able to have this time with you to kind of share what your journey has been and to, yeah, let the people know who you are.
Well, along with graduating from the Data Zuri program, I do have a bachelor's from Albertus in business management and an associate's in retail management, fashion merchandising from Gateway. So, you know,
Yeah.
combo thing.
Multifaceted, and education is a lifelong thing. So, I
Yeah.
value in that. Yes. So that adds to being able to provide service, professionalism.
Mhm.
What is it that brought you to the space of, making that pivot? It sounds like you were business focused and I know fashion focused. And then, what was it that sparked your interest about becoming a doula?
Well, it was definitely divine. It has to be. Um, there were a few of my coworkers who were pregnant, and I used to always talk to them about maternity stuff. I would touch their bellies and move the baby around, make the baby kick, get them all upset. Um, and one of them said, "You should be a doula." And I remember saying to her, "I don't have time to do anything else."
Mm.
And the next day, I got an invite from Honor to attend the information session. And I looked up and I was like, "You're so funny." I had to tell the universe, like, "You're funny." And I reluctantly accepted the invite, went to the information session, and the rest is history.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing. It's so interesting because I really feel like doing this work is a calling. Like it's not for everyone, even though people might be interested. It is like definitely something that you're called to do, whether it's midwifery or doula services, but just to be there to support mothers at such a sacred, time. It really is beyond just, oh, this sounds interesting. So, right? So I just find it so to be, for that synchronicity of, you have this thought and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, like those connections are made. And here you are in the information session.
Right, right. And I was like, what am I doing here? But, it was a really nice atmosphere. So I say, I've never been in such a large group of women before where it was just like the vibe was just really, really nice. So I was excited and I said, okay, you know what? Maybe I will do this. you know, and I just kept coming back and information session. And, here, if you really want to be a part of it, put your name down. I put my name down and I was just like, okay, I'm really doing this.
Now,
So,
so at what point in the program did it kind of click for you, like, aha, this is why I'm here? Was there any, like, information that was shared? Was there any aspect of what you began learning that was like, okay, I see why I was meant to be here?
Um, Definitely in the beginning of the program, after our first two classes, that's when it really sunk in. We went over a lot of information, and when I was hearing about all the implicit bias that goes on and how I had actually went through it, and when you realize that you are a victim yourself, then it makes it just rearranges everything for you, so that makes your purpose become a lot more clear. So that's what did it for me. I
I'm
had trouble with both my births, and I didn't realize it because I was young and I was just going through the motions. But now that I know, now that I'm on a different aspect of it, I'm like, oh, that's not right. We're not doing that again.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I think that term is used, and a lot of times people don't even necessarily know what it is. If we say racism, then it's
Right.
kind of okay. An implicit bias, it has a similar connotation, but there's an aspect of it that is even more vulnerable. Would you be willing to share kind of what your experience was with implicit bias?
Um, yeah, I mean, I was treated, even though I had insurance, and I had a job, I had a husband, um, I was treated as if I was just something off the street. Um, the way that the nurses interacted with me, and not all the nurses, there were some nurses that were a lot more friendly, that pretty much, you know, knew that being a nurse meant you're going to be around all types of people, even within themselves. It just wasn't their nature. But then you could tell when you're around certain people that that's just them, and that's how they grew up, is treating certain people a certain way. Um, and even though I had all of those things and I was educated, I was in the medical field, I knew the terms that they were telling me. Um, they would just talk down to me and treat me like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. After I had two C-sections, so after my second one, um, I was here at a New Haven hospital, and I called the nurse in. I told her, I said, listen, my stitches, they're bleeding. She said, no, it's probably just from your pad, and it just rolled up your stomach. And I'm
Wow.
like, no, I'm pretty sure I'd know if it was coming out of my vagina. And that's what I had to tell her that. And she was just so rough with me. It's like she didn't want to take the care. She didn't want to believe that I knew what was going on. I wasn't asking for a lot of pain medicine, but I did just have major surgery. So I just wanted to be comfortable. And they would say, oh, well, it's not like, I can tell the time. I know what time it is. I would like some more medication. Can you come and check my incision, make sure I don't have an infection? It's just things like that. They don't think that you know your body, number one. They don't think that you're educated enough to understand what's going on around you. Um, and a lot of things they were trying to pass off on me, medical terminology. They were trying to talk fast to me. It was just not a good experience.
And I'm grateful for you sharing that story, because I think that's a really clear example of a lot of what is happening in this labor, delivery, childbirth process, dealing with Western medicine, dealing with OBs, midwives, and nurses that don't look like us.
Right.
And that's why I feel like this platform is important. And I specifically say Black midwives, Black doulas, Black medical professionals or childbirth professionals, because there is a significant disparity in the numbers. Like, I want to say midwives make up something like less than 5% of the Black midwives, make up less than 5% of like the midwife population. Don't quote me on the statistics, but it's significantly lower than the population that they serve, which means that the majority of the people that we're seeing for, our care during prenatal and postnatal and just, our regular visits don't look like us, and how that plays a role in the way that we're treated. Um, is there, so from what you've experienced as a doula, how would you have supported you during those times, during your, childbirth experiences, that could have made a difference?
Oh, I would have had a home birth. I wouldn't have even, I would have attempted VBAC. Um, there really was nothing to indicate that I would have had a traumatic birth the second time around. Um, like I said, I just went through the motions, but I know I would have had a midwife. I would have had a more natural plan put in place, being at home, having my son be able to run around, my family being able to come in, bring me food, just being in my own space. That's definitely what I would have done for myself as a doula. I would have encouraged that. Um, a lot of moms that we talk to today are afraid to have a home birth because they're like, oh, well, what if something goes wrong? Well, I mean, what if something goes wrong in the hospital? It takes time for them to page the doctor, get to, you know what I mean? It to me, it's the same amount of time to when you get an ambulance to get you to the hospital. And at that point, someone is giving you care until the specialist comes in and says, okay, this is what we're gonna do. But yeah, definitely a home birth for me. I would have done more yoga, breathing exercises. I had no clue. I was just really going through the motions. When I say going through the motions, I was going through the motions. I didn't know breathing techniques. I didn't have any of that. So I definitely would have made sure that I was a lot more educated as to what the birthing process was about.
That is awesome. And I think that speaks to some of the things, I read about you and the services that you provide. So, and speaking to, mothers or women considering giving birth, it sounds like that whole education is
Right.
important, like to be empowered, to be comfortable, to know you have options. And I think one thing you spoke to kind of stood out to me is, prior to getting pregnant, with my oldest, I didn't really know what my options were. I didn't know I could have a home birth. You know what I mean? So the idea is, okay, you're pregnant. All right, well, let me find a OB and a midwife to attend me through my prenatal, and we're just gonna be in a hospital. So I think
Mhm.
like the work that you're doing, the new kind of information that's out there that says, look, you can do something different. And I think even what you pointed to with implicit bias, there's almost like a dire need to think outside the box and to put that into perspective. What are your thoughts on um, being pregnant during the pandemic?
Ooh. Um, you know, again, I would do everything at home. And I think that would encourage me more to be at home because the hospital is so overcrowded. Um, we've never seen our hospitals this overcrowded with people before, and they don't know how to handle it. They have to make up sections for people to be in COVID, non-COVID. So it's really not an environment I'd want to have a baby in. As far as prenatal care, um, the virtual aspect of it is more helpful. Um, I know that me seeing clients virtually, it gives me a different perspective of their life because, a lot of times they're at home. So I get to see what's going on in the background. I get to hear, or try to get a glimpse of what their house setup is like. I had one client give me a tour. I mean, so it's like you get to see into their lives and get a better view and kind of know how to interact with them. Um, and like I said, as far as giving birth in a hospital, I know I wouldn't do it, but I'm more than willing to support someone who does. But I think that a time like this should encourage people to want to use their own space, and actually have a more natural birth experience in a calmer setting. A hospital now, there would be no way to have peace to me, even though labor and delivery is separate. I just the feeling to me of being in a hospital at this time, it's just ooh, germs. you know?
Regular
And
day, but now it's
right.
like even more so. Like firsthand kind of, you have insider knowledge, being a 911 dispatch, so you have a really good awareness of kind of what's
How
going
many
on in your
people?
city. Yeah.
Hmm. A lot.
Wow.
A lot of people go. Um, and there's times when people don't go. And
Mm.
that's the scary part because those people may or may not quarantine. Um, it's just hard times all around. Um, but births, pregnancy are going to happen. So we can't pause it just to say, okay, well, when this is all over, y'all could go back to having babies.
Right.
No. So, yeah, I just like to encourage. And for me, if I were pregnant at this time, I would definitely be doing all of my appointments virtual unless I had to go in, or, I would have a midwife and take the precautions to have that midwife come into my home if she needed to check me. There would be very little that I would do outside.
Mm.
And then when it comes time for the birth, of course, I'd set up here, have my birth, and that's just my thoughts on it. It's nasty. I mean, that's a different topic, but
Right. As far as hospital settings, I think we share a common thread just in reference to that. That was one of my biggest things. Like I was very clear that this was not a medical procedure. And to me, that
hmm
wasn't the energy or the environment that I wanted to bring life into the world. So I
hmm
definitely feel you on that. And then, I
oh
just
yeah.
kind of tie in, you do a lot around like natural healing, like the herbology and understanding the different plants and things like that and how they can be beneficial in the yoga. Is that part of, what you kind of introduce your clients to the mothers to, as far as, ways to prepare or to kind of get in alignment with what's going on?
Um, Herbology in the sense of nutrition. I start with basic nutrition. That's one of the things I encourage. You can't necessarily go in and change someone's way of eating. But if I can educate you on a better way to be healthy, then that's what I'll do. Um, I will come up with a diet plan. I give suggestions on, okay, eat this, not that. A lot of clients have high blood pressure. That's something that I have dealt with for many years. Um, you have to find a way to give your body the nutrients it needs without adding on all this other different stuff. It's like your body, because we have so many toxins already in our system, your body feels like it's hungry all the time. And we know that if you drank some water, or if you ate a piece of fruit, or did something less than grabbing a bag of chips, or eating a whole half a loaf of bread, which I used to do. That raisin bread, oh my god. But just trying to find alternatives, and it's about conditioning your mind. That's what it really comes down to, is forming that habit of, okay, I really don't need to eat like this. And you'll see the difference in how you give birth, like how your body responds to it. um Herbalism and nutrition is just a full circle. But that's it. That's generally how I interact with my clients. That's what I tell them. You know, we can definitely do a lot with nutrition. It's just you have to be willing to accept what I'm telling you, and understand that this goes to the baby as well. So you are what you eat. The baby is what you eat. So, and the yoga, I'm always telling my moms, because a lot of my moms have other children, and they're younger. And I'm like, involve your kids in your relaxation practices. It's so easy, and I'll send them links of meditation practices that'll be geared towards children, which they help us too, because calming techniques are calming techniques. Um, but if you can get your other children to say, okay, listen, this is our quiet time, you'd be surprised. You interrupt the little kids' quiet time. Little kids are are a little snotty sometimes. They be like, listen, I'm trying to meditate. You interrupted. So, I try to get them to get their kids to be involved in it that way. it could be a family thing. So,
Okay.
they don't have to worry about, okay, well, I don't have any time to myself. Well, if you include the kids, you will, everybody's got time to themselves. Everybody in time out.
Right. That's awesome. That's a good habit to get started with young as well. How
Right.
important is relaxation
Yeah.
in the birthing process?
What was that?
How important is relaxation in the birthing process?
Very important. When your body is tense, it can't do what it needs to do naturally. So relaxation just helps you to decompress. It helps your body to open up. So I I like to do affirmations. I like to have an aroma diffuser going. Um, and there's, some techniques as far as breath work and voice work as well that help to open up the body and to relax. If your environment is stressful, you can't possibly have a non-traumatic birth or a birth that's not stressful or strenuous. It is to a certain extent on the body naturally, but when you have other factors, people in and out the room, there's all this noise, and you already feel like you're not being treated fairly, that adds on to the stress too. Um, then your body's not going to be able to do what it does naturally, which all those hormones come into play. You can block them. So the relaxation techniques are very, very important.
Awesome. And I just want to preface it that we are speaking of, regular, non-high risk births, just the whole natural process, because we understand that, there are instances where, you are at high or considered high risk. So different things have to take place. But in a natural, normal, pregnancy, these things are just invaluable to understand and to implement in order to have the birthing experience that you know you would be interested in, you desire. um
Right.
is there anything you would, any advice you would give, or is there any story in particular that kind of stood out for you that was that kind of was a good example of why you do what you do, or why you would encourage others who feel like they have this calling to get involved?
Absolutely. My first home birth was actually just so wonderful. Seeing a baby born just makes anybody emotional. you know but yeah, for that particular mom, she was attempting to have a home birth after a hospital birth. She knew what she wanted. Her and her husband had a plan. um, and just seeing all my techniques put to use, just seeing how relaxed she was, just seeing how the process, and I mean, we were there for maybe 10 hours and she had the baby. So, I mean, just knowing that, having everything fall into place of what I'm telling her, and then seeing it actually, okay, if you use these kind of breathing techniques, or if we do this voice work, you'll open up more. And it was like, it felt like before we knew it, she was having the baby. The midwife was there, and I'm standing there like, you know, seeing this baby being born and seeing the happiness and the relief on their face as well. Um, because, this was them taking a chance on a home birth, um, because their hospital experience was not good. But that experience there, and, I had a team, I was with another doula, um, and just being with them in their home warm and welcoming, it was just really, really one of my best experiences.
Oh,
So,
that is awesome.
yeah.
And it's interesting because when I kind of, even in looking and researching and like the differences and things like that, I think there's a conversation around like doulas and midwives, and kind of where the difference lies. And
Mhm.
what it seems like to me is like the midwife is the technical, she's that, or he in some instances, they're that individual that has, that full medical knowledge, and they're here to make sure that the baby comes into the world in the best way possible. But doula care seems to be specific to mother-centered care. Like, we're here to support you, we're here to make sure you're comfortable. so that the midwife can focus on, that whole aspect of, where the baby's position, the heart rates, and let's bring this baby into the world. So what is the role kind of the doula in the birth process?
Well, yeah, the role of the doula is the informational, emotional, and physical support. Um, I feel that we interact more with the clients um, on a consistent basis throughout pregnancy, and I have to say that with once they reach a certain trimester, like when they're in their third trimester, yeah, we're gonna be in touch with them more. To make sure everything's coming along, you're getting closer to your due date. How are you feeling? Any complications? Anything that maybe they might not think is something to talk to their midwife about, and we'll say, hey, listen, you might want to contact your midwife. We'll try everything to kind of give them suggestions. Um, if it doesn't feel like what they're expressing warrants a midwife right away, we'll try to help them figure it out in the meantime. But yeah, we're more hands-on. We sit, we get to know them. Um, a lot of times we're around the children. So I think for us, we become more the chances for us to get to know them and to become a lot more intertwined in their life is greater than that of a midwife, where yeah, the midwife is just okay, well, what is your due date? What do you want out of your birth? How would you want your birth experience? How do you see your birth experience to go? Um, and they're there to facilitate. Whereas the doula is more or less the she's more of an integral part where we're inside in the home, um, and just trying to connect with the family, let the mom, reassuring the mom, listen, you can have this birth experience. It does take some work on your part, some education, knowing what you want, researching what you want, and you can make it happen. We don't guarantee outcomes at all, but we like to say we want to be a part of you having a more non-traumatic birth experience. That's how it was funny. It wasn't clicking in my brain just now, but but that's how I usually say it, is that, you can have this experience and you just have to believe it and put it in place. So.
Awesome. So what services do you provide? I know you mentioned home birth. Do you also do hospital births, and what are the services that you would be offering?
The services that I offer, I am also a placenta encapsulator, which, I'm still setting up my space for that. So I'm not taking any placentas at this time. Um, and just being a doula, general services. I do virtual. And if need be, I will, come out to see a client. Um, and I make shea butter. That it's like a hobby of mine, but I've been encouraged to kind of now present it to the public. So I do small batches of body butter, um, and that will be put out on Facebook or Instagram when I do start to produce those batches for sale. So that's about it. And the herbalism and the nutrition and the yoga, that's, I'm still in the process of finding training programs. So that'll be coming soon too.
Awesome. And if people want to get in touch with you, how do they reach you? You mentioned Facebook. How would they get in touch with
Yeah. Well, first, if for, doula support, I can be reached through Earth's Natural Touch, which is earthsnaturaltouch.com. Um, and I'm on Facebook, Kendra Branch Payne. I'm on Instagram, which I'm on it. But you can also message me. I'm Starfly79. Um, and I have a Twitter account, but I'm not active on Twitter. So I don't know my Twitter name, but those are the two main platforms that I am on, along with earthsnaturaltouch.com.
Awesome. And if you're listening and you want to reach out and you have access to this podcast, then definitely reach out to me and I will get you all connected. I think, what you're doing is phenomenal. I am like, we are elementary school friends. So like to see how we've evolved and where we are now, I'm just, it means so much to me. And it's so valuable. I'm glad we could do this together. I'm grateful that you could come on and share your story. You're just an amazing person, phenomenal mother. To have boys in college in this day and age is a feat, and you making it happen. So I'm grateful for our connection, and I'm thankful
Yes.
you're able to come on to the show tonight.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And yes, we childhood friends.
Well, thank you everyone for watching. Share, share, share. If you are a doula or a childbirth, professional, or if you are a midwife, please get in touch with me. We need your story. We need as much understanding of who is out here to support us as possible. And if you feel you have that calling, definitely take the steps to make it happen because we need you. So thank you all for tuning in and be well. Peace and blessings, family.